Yes, here. And today is the day where I count down the best games of all time. Yep. I never thought I'd do this. I thought it would be too hard of a criteria to do. But I've finally broken it down. And even though it was 20, man, it was hard. You'll see a lot of honorable mentions. But there are so many honorable mentions that I think that might even get its own video. But this is the top 20 best games of all time. 20 through 11. Okay, so here are the rules. I am not doing one game per franchise because there's a particular franchise that needs to be on here more than once. Like, it doesn't make a best games of all time list without being on here, those two games. Anyways, also, this might defeat the whole purpose of it being the best games of all time, but I'm excluding games that came out this console generation. Meaning, games on the Xbox One, PS4, Wii U, or Switch will be excluded from the list. However, any games that got ported or remastered on those consoles are, of course, allowed to be on here. Also, I'm not including any games that never end. Not including any games like Tetris or Pac-Man that go on forever, pretty much. And that, yeah. So yeah. I don't know why I sound depressed. Let's get right into this. These are the best games ever made. Oh, you know this was a tough list if Halo barely made it. The first Halo might have been the reason why you bought an Xbox, but Halo 2 was the reason you kept it. After, of course, the original Xbox faded out, of course. Halo 2 was the best-selling and most played game on the original Xbox, and improved upon the original in pretty much every way. It has a very competitive scene, but most of all, and where I'm ending it, I'm going to end it here. Halo 2 made the franchise what it is today. One of the biggest and highest selling franchises, the most played franchises, Xbox's biggest franchise. Like, whenever you think of Xbox, you think of first-person shooters. And why do you think of first-person shooters? Because of Xbox? It's because of Halo 2. This is why. Licensed games have a reputation for being bad, but some of the better ones, while also being some of the worst ones, Superman 64, are the superhero games. There was no game that proved that superhero games can work more than Batman Arkham City. Batman Arkham City is a sequel to the surprisingly great, at the time at least, surprisingly great, Arkham Asylum, and just like Halo 2, improved upon it in every way possible. Not to mention an epic story and open world, as in, like, that one's also epic. Those are reasons why this one game you need to get on either your Xbox 360 or PS3, or you can sure find other ways to play it. Throw in a combat system that is so good that many others fail to imitate, and you got the best superhero game ever. Castlevania is one of the biggest franchises ever, but the best game in the franchise, without question, is definitely Symphony of the Night, and without question one of the greatest games ever. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a revolutionary game in its own right, I'll get to that later, and is a fan favorite for good reason. While every big franchise at the time was going into 3D, including Castlevania, we still got this game, which is good. The first game in the franchise to have voice acting was this, by the way, I think. It's a direct sequel to Rondo of Blood, which is another great game, but not as good as this, especially since we had to wait till the PSP and the Wii Virtual Console. In this game, you play as Alucard, which is Dracula backwards, by the way, a veteran from 3. Also, you didn't have a whip in this game, but rather swords and shields. Not to mention, it was revolutionary for taking some gameplay of Metroid, like Super Metroid, and creating Metroidvania. It created a genre. Platformers are like this game and Super Metroid combined. For creating a genre, that should be good enough. This one game is so good, they ported it everywhere so close to its initial release date. Bioshock. This game is beautiful and another good story. You play as a survivor of a brutal plane crash, having to explore and find out more stuff. I'm not that good at explaining things, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. The weapons you have are awesome too, with bioengineered plasmids. Yep, I said that. That is basically magic for the game, what the game interprets as magic. Bioshock is a really great game and is a fan favorite. Just like pretty much all these games on the list, they're all fan favorites, but Bioshock is adored for its visuals and gameplay. A good story, amazing visuals, awesome combat. The combat is really great as well. And tough gameplay. The gameplay is really tough as well. It's also a pretty hard game. Makes this a shoo-in for the list. Talk about being phenomenal. Chrono Trigger is the classic JRPG, the classic JRPG, and made the genre more popular. This has a great combat system and an awesome soundtrack, though it is the oldest game on the list so far. It is still as charming and delightful to play today. You've got many great party members and weapons, and the AI, well, the AI are something. Not to mention, this game has 13 different endings. 13! It is an iconic game that Square honestly has to do more with than a watered down mobile port and porting that same mobile port to Steam. It is the second best JRPG ever. Good things never last, like this franchise thanks to Metal Gear Survive. Let me just let it go. However, how it all started was phenomenally with an amazing game. and one of the greatest of all time. Metal Gear Solid on PS1 has a great and complex story filled with twists and turns that will make your head spin, but in a good way. This game has some pretty revolutionary cutscenes for the time, at least. I mean, it might not look like that much now, but it's the time this was pretty big. Not to mention the stealth action worked great too. Though it aged poorly, like I already said, this was a beautiful game for the time, and is a masterpiece that spawned a great franchise. Though there is Snake Eater and Phantom Pain that are worthy, they can't top this. But sadly, Konami just has to let this go. However, one zombie franchise that was always a zombie franchise, and good at that, is Resident Evil. And there is no better game in that franchise than Resident Evil 4, the 4th entry. Though, not really, it's more like the 6th main entry. But you don't need to, like, you know, play the other games in order to understand this one. It's got a different story. You play as Leon Kennedy trying to rescue the president's daughter. Yeah, that really didn't have much to do with the other games. But that's good. Though at the time this was a dramatic change, this game proves that change is good. And a record pretty much was set a new standard. This might have some of the best voice acting and controls in any game ever. There is definitely more and more great things to say about this game, but I don't want this video to be too long. But yeah, just want to say, game has awesome over-the-shoulder like gameplay, and yeah, it's a really great game. You should play it. You saw Mario coming on this list, but you might not have seen the last of him. And surprisingly, Super Mario 64 did not even make the top 10. This is how hard the list was. Super Mario 64 sort of created 3D platforming and free roams. If it didn't create it, it perfected it definitely, but I'm pretty sure it created it. It is one of the, if not the most revolutionary game of all time, with sweet controls that set a standard for 3D games in general, really, and nice visuals for the time, at least. Gives this game a spot on the list, and a well-deserving one, and just created 3D games and basically a new era of video games. That's good enough. Talk about a masterpiece. The Last of Us, by far, has the best story in any game in history, and will be hard to rival. Really makes you care about the characters and gets you invested. This is already best of all time worthy with the amazing story, but then you take into account the visuals, the music scores, and its gameplay that are amazing and stellar too. Though I did consider some Uncharted games for the list, like Drake's Fortune and even A Thief's End, Naughty Dog's best game is definitely this. This was what the game console, the PS3, went out on. and what a game to do so with. What game revolutionized first-person shooters on home consoles? GoldenEye 007. I was gonna make it a surprise, but it's not much of a surprise. You guys can already see that it's GoldenEye 007. This game tops the first half of the list for many reasons, but the main reason is how revolutionary it was. And the first FPS with local co-op, I think. Like local couch co-op, I think. Don't quote me on that. Because I'm not 100% sure. This is a masterpiece, and the second best FPS ever made, and the best movie game ever as well, though that isn't much of an achievement. It's still quite an achievement that it manages to be the only one, or one of the only ones, that's actually pretty good, because there aren't many others that are that good. And you know the crazy thing? It didn't even make the top 10 list. That's crazy. GoldenEye not even making the top 10 list? Yeah. That's it for this video. Be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, in a non-biased standpoint, what do you think are the best games of all time? Like, games that are commonly and unanimously hailed as the best games ever. Give me your 10, your 15, your 5, your 20, your 50, I don't care. Give me as much as you want. And you're probably wondering where are a bunch of other games? That's because we got 10 down, but we still got 10 more to go. So stay tuned for probably either later today or in the upcoming day or two, I don't know, where I upload 10 through 1. Alright? See ya, guys.